Good evening. Tonight, we journey back through time, through centuries of storytelling, through the myths and legends that shaped our Christmas traditions. Stories of St. Nicholas, of evergreen trees, of lights in the darkness, and creatures who walk the winter nights. These aren't the stories you learned as a child. These are the older tales, the original myths, the legends that came before the holiday we know today. Make yourself comfortable. Pull your blankets close. Close your eyes. Tonight, I'll tell you the ancient stories of Christmas, the myths beneath the myths, the folklore that still echoes in our celebrations. You don't need to remember every detail. Just listen and let these ancient voices carry you gently towards sleep. Breathe slowly, deeply, and we begin. Long ago, in the 4th century, in a land we now call Turkey, there lived a bishop named Nicholas, not the jolly figure in red you imagine, but a serious man, a holy man, living in the city of Myra, along the Mediterranean coast. Nicholas was born to wealthy parents, merchants, traders. When they died, they left him a fortune, gold, property, riches beyond measure. But Nicholas, he didn't keep it for himself. The legend says, there was a poor man in Myra, a father with 3 daughters. He had no money for their dowries. Without dowries, they couldn't marry. Without marriage, they faced a terrible fate. The father despaired. He saw no way forward. His daughters would be sold, or worse. Nicholas heard of this family, and one night, when darkness covered the streets, he crept to their house. He carried a bag of gold coins, heavy, jingling softly. The window was open. Nicholas tossed the bag inside. It landed, some say, in a stocking hung by the fire to dry. The eldest daughter was saved. She could marry. The father wept with gratitude, but he never knew who had helped them. Time passed. The second daughter came of age. Again. Nicholas came in the night. Again. A bag of gold through the window. The father was bewildered. Who was this mysterious benefactor? Who kept saving his family? When the third daughter's time came, the father stayed awake, watching, waiting, and there, in the shadows, he saw Nicholas, cloaked, silent, about to throw the final bag of gold. The father ran outside, fell to his knees, thanked Nicholas through tears. But Nicholas, he made the father promise. "Tell no one," he said. "This is between us and God." Interesting, isn't it? The saint who would become Santa Claus wanted no recognition, no fame, only to help in secret. But word spread, as it always does. Stories of the mysterious bishop who gave to the poor, who protected children, who performed miracles. When Nicholas died, on December 6th in the year 343, his legend was just beginning. Sailors prayed to him for protection. He became their patron saint. They carried his stories to every port, every land, every people. In medieval Europe, children would leave shoes by the door on St. Nicholas Eve, hoping the saint would fill them with gifts. Good children received treats, nuts, fruits, small toys. Naughty children received coal or switches, or nothing at all. This was the beginning, the seed from which our modern Christmas would grow. Let your breathing slow. There are more stories to come. Why do we bring trees into our homes in winter? Why evergreens? Why do we decorate them with lights and ornaments? The answer lies in very old beliefs, older than Christianity, older than written history. Our ancestors, in the forests of northern Europe, lived close to nature. They watched the seasons turn, summer's green abundance, autumn's decay, winter's death. Every year, the sun grew weaker, days became shorter, darkness claimed more and more of each day. The world grew cold, hard, lifeless, but there was one tree that stayed green: the evergreen, the pine, the fir, the spruce. While all other trees stood bare and skeletal, these trees kept their needles, kept their color, kept their life. This seemed magical to ancient peoples. How did these trees resist winter's death? How did they maintain life when everything else surrendered? They believed these trees were blessed, protected by spirits, holders of eternal life. The Germanic tribes would bring evergreen branches into their homes during winter solstice, a reminder, a promise that life would return, that spring would come again. They believed the branches protected them, kept away evil spirits, preserved life force during the dark months. If you're still awake, picture a small wooden house, snow piled against the walls, inside firelight, and in the corner, pine branches, green, alive, defiant against winter. In later centuries, as Christianity spread, the church adapted this tradition. There's a legend about St. Boniface, an English missionary in Germany in the 8th century. The legend says he came upon pagans worshipping an oak tree, Thor's oak, a sacred tree where they performed rituals. Boniface, determined to prove their gods were false, took an axe to the tree. He chopped and chopped, and as the great oak fell, a miracle occurred. A fir tree, small but perfectly formed, grew from the oak's roots. Right there, instantly, Boniface declared this was a sign. The triangle shape of the fir represented the Holy Trinity. Its evergreen nature symbolized eternal life through Christ. Whether this story is true, we cannot know, but it shows how the evergreen tree was transformed from pagan symbol to Christian symbol. By the Middle Ages, people in Germany were bringing entire trees into their homes at Christmas, decorating them with apples, nuts, candles. The tradition spread slowly to other lands, other peoples. When German immigrants came to America, they brought their Christmas trees with them, and the custom took root in new soil. Now, evergreen trees glow in windows across the world every December, covered in lights, in ornaments, in tinsel and stars. But beneath the modern tradition echoes the ancient belief that these trees hold something eternal, something that survives darkness, something that promises return. Not all Christmas legends are gentle. Some are dark, strange, a little frightening. In the folklore of Northern Europe, winter was not just cold. It was dangerous, supernatural. And during the longest nights, something rode through the sky. The wild hunt. Different cultures called it different things. In Germany, Wildjagd. In England, Hurlething. In Scandinavia, Oskore. But the story was always similar. On certain winter nights, especially around the solstice and Christmas, a ghostly procession would ride across the sky. Hunters, warriors, spectral figures on phantom horses, led by a fearsome leader. Some said the leader was Odin, the Norse god. Others said it was an ancient king, or the devil himself. The hunt would thunder through the darkness, accompanied by howling hounds, the sound of horns, the clatter of hooves on clouds. Anyone who saw the wild hunt had to take care. Some versions said, if you looked at them, you'd be swept up, carried away, lost forever. Others said, if you called out to the hunt, they might grant you a wish or a curse, depending on their mood. The wild hunt collected souls, the dead who wouldn't rest, the wicked, the unbaptized. They joined the ghostly cavalcade, riding forever through winter skies. Families would bar their doors on these nights, close their shutters, stay inside by the fire, safe. Some would leave offerings outside, food, drink, for the hunt to take and spare the household. This legend influenced Christmas traditions in subtle ways. The image of someone riding through winter skies, bringing judgment, separating good from bad. Sound familiar? St. Nicholas, in some versions, rides through the air on his feast day, checking on children, rewarding or punishing. Santa Claus flies through Christmas Eve skies, making his list, checking it twice, finding out who's naughty or nice. The connection is there, softened, made child-friendly, but rooted in something older, something wilder. Breathe deeply. Let these images drift through your mind like winter winds. Fire has always been sacred to humans, especially in winter, when darkness dominated, when cold threatened. Fire meant survival, warmth, light, life. In Scandinavia and Britain, there was a tradition called Yule, a winter solstice celebration. The darkest time of year, families would select a large log, the largest they could find. Oak was preferred, strong, dense, long burning. This was the Yule log. They would bring it into the hall with ceremony, sometimes decorated with evergreen branches, sometimes blessed with ale or cider. And on the longest night, they would light it. The Yule log was meant to burn for 12 days, from the solstice through the new year, continuously, never going out. If the log went out before 12 days, bad luck would follow. The harvest might fail, illness might come, darkness might win. So someone always tended it, fed it, kept the flame alive. The ashes of the Yule log were considered magical, protective. People would collect them, sprinkle them on fields to ensure fertility, mix them with animal feed for health, keep them in the house to ward off lightning. A piece of the log would be saved, kept throughout the year, then used to light the next year's Yule log, connecting one year to the next, one fire to the next, an unbroken chain of light against darkness. When Christianity absorbed these traditions, the Yule log continued, but its meaning shifted. It became a Christmas log, burned during the 12 days of Christmas. From Christmas Eve to Epiphany, families would gather around it, tell stories, sing songs. The log became a symbol of hospitality, of home, of family bonds. In France, La Bûche de Noël. In Italy, Ceppo. Different names, same ancient practice. Eventually, as homes changed, as fireplaces became smaller or disappeared, the tradition transformed again. Now we have the Yule log cake, a chocolate log, decorated to look like wood, eaten instead of burned. But the memory remains, in the shape, in the name, a culinary ghost of an ancient fire. If you're still listening, imagine that fire, crackling, warm, the longest night outside, but inside, light endures. Saint Nicholas, in many European traditions, doesn't work alone. He has companions, helpers, servants, and some of them are not nearly as kind as he is. In Alpine regions, Austria, Bavaria, parts of Switzerland, there's a creature called Krampus. He's the shadow to Nicholas's light, the punishment to Nicholas's reward. Krampus is a beast, half goat, half demon, covered in dark fur, with horns, fangs, a long tongue, hooves, chains that rattle when he walks. He carries a bundle of birch sticks for beating naughty children, and a basket on his back for carrying the worst children away. On Krampusnacht, Krampus night, December 5th, the night before St. Nicholas Day. Krampus roams the streets. St. Nicholas rewards good children, but Krampus handles the others. He frightens them, chases them, teaches them fear. In extreme versions of the legend, he takes them away, down to his lair, never to return. This tradition is very old, probably pre-Christian. Krampus may have originated as a pagan nature spirit, wild, untamed, representing the dangerous side of winter. The Catholic Church tried to suppress Krampus traditions, called them too dark, too frightening, too pagan. But the tradition survived. People kept celebrating Krampusnacht, kept telling their children about the beast who punished the wicked. In recent years, Krampus has become popular again. Festivals, costumes, movies, the dark companion to Christmas cheer. Krampus isn't alone. St. Nicholas has other dark helpers in various traditions. In the Netherlands and Belgium, there's Zwarte Piet, Black Pete, Nicholas's helper. Controversial now, but old in the tradition. In Germany, there are many figures: Knecht Ruprecht, Belsnickel, servants who accompany Nicholas, who carry the rods for punishment while Nicholas carries the gifts. In Iceland, there are the Yule Lads, 13 mischievous trolls, each with a name describing their particular trick: Sheepcoat Clod, Gullygorg, Stubby, Spoonlicker, Pot Scraper. They visit children on the 13 nights before Christmas, leave gifts for good children, rotten potatoes for naughty ones, and their mother, Grilla, she's even worse, a giantess who eats naughty children, makes stew from them. These traditions remind us Christmas folklore wasn't always safe, sanitized, child-friendly. It contained darkness, fear, real consequences for bad behavior. The threat was part of the magic, the danger part of the wonder. Modern Christmas has softened these edges, made everything cheerful, but the old stories remain, lurking in the shadows of December. Let your mind rest now. These dark figures can't harm you here. At the heart of Christmas, there's a star, the star that guided wise men across deserts, that announced the birth of something divine, that hung in the eastern sky, brighter than all others. But what was the Star of Bethlehem? Was it real? If so, what was it? For 2,000 years, people have wondered. Astronomers have searched historical records, tried to find what celestial event might have occurred around the time of Christ's birth. Some believe it was a conjunction of planets, Jupiter and Saturn, coming close together in the night sky, creating an unusually bright point of light. This conjunction happened in 7 BCE, around the right time, in the constellation Pisces, which ancient astrologers associated with the Jewish people. Wise men, magi, would have been astrologers. They studied the stars, interpreted celestial signs. A planetary conjunction would have seemed significant to them. Others think it might have been a comet. Comets were considered omens, signs of great events. A comet appeared in 5 BCE, recorded by Chinese astronomers. Still others suggest a nova, an exploding star, suddenly appearing, shining brilliantly, then fading over weeks or months. The truth is, we don't know. Perhaps we'll never know. But the star became a symbol, hope, guidance, light in darkness. People began putting stars atop their Christmas trees. The first star, the star that started everything. In many Christian homes, in the Philippines especially, there's a tradition of the parole, a star-shaped lantern made of bamboo and paper, lit from within. Families hang these stars outside their homes at Christmas. They glow softly in the tropical night. Dozens, hundreds, creating constellations of man-made stars, each one remembering that first star. In Poland, on Christmas Eve, families wait for the first star to appear in the sky. Only then can they begin their Christmas feast. The star signals it's time. The star reminds us of wonder, of mystery, of the idea that the heavens speak to us, guide us, show us the way. Whether the Star of Bethlehem was planet or comet or nova or pure miracle doesn't matter as much as what it represents: light, direction, hope, a sign that we're not alone in the darkness. Breathe evenly. The stories continue softly. There's a small legend, told in various versions across Europe, about a bird and an act of kindness on the night Christ was born. In the stable, the fire was dying. The infant was cold. Mary was exhausted. Joseph didn't know what to do. The animals breathed on the baby to keep him warm. The ox, the donkey, offering what they could. But the fire, it was fading to embers. Soon it would be out, and the cold night would creep in. A little brown bird, sitting in the rafters, saw this and flew down. The bird, no one special, just a small brown bird, began to fan the embers with its wings. Back and forth, back and forth. The embers glowed, brightened. The fire revived. But as the bird fanned, the heat scorched its breast. The feathers turned red, singed by the flames. Still the bird continued, fanning, keeping the fire alive, keeping the baby warm, even though it hurt. When morning came and the danger had passed, the bird flew away, forever marked by what it had done. That bird, the legend says, was the robin, and ever since, all robins bear a red breast, a mark of that night, that kindness. It's a sweet story, probably invented in the Middle Ages to explain why robins look the way they do, but it became part of Christmas folklore. Robins appear on Christmas cards, on decorations, symbols of the season. In Britain especially, where robins are common, they're associated with Christmas, with winter, with small acts of kindness. The legend teaches that everyone can help, even the smallest, even the least important. Everyone has something to give. The robin, with its bright breast, becomes a winter messenger, a reminder of warmth in cold seasons. If you're still awake, picture that small bird, fanning flames, enduring pain for the sake of a stranger. Why do we associate bells with Christmas? Why do they ring out on Christmas Eve? The answer involves old beliefs about sound and spirits and protection. In many cultures, bells were considered powerful. Their sound could drive away evil spirits, announce important events, call people to prayer, mark sacred time. Churches used bells this way to sanctify the hours, to gather the faithful, to proclaim holy days. But there were older beliefs too, that certain sounds could pierce the veil between worlds, that music and ringing could affect invisible realms. In Scandinavia, there was a belief that on Christmas Eve, at midnight, church bells would ring on their own, without human hands. Angels rang them, or God himself, or the bells rang in joy at Christ's birth, echoing that ancient moment across time. Some said, if you listened carefully at midnight on Christmas, you could hear all the bells that had ever rung, past and present merging, a chorus across centuries. Others believed the ringing bells opened the doorway, that on Christmas Eve, the dead could return, visit their families, share the celebration. Families would set extra places at the table, leave chairs empty for the spirits of deceased relatives, welcomed home by the sound of bells. In Poland and Ukraine, people would listen for bells at midnight. If you heard them clearly, good fortune would follow. If the sound was muffled, be cautious. The practice of ringing bells at Christmas became widespread. Church bells, sleigh bells, handbells, little bells on Christmas trees, each ring chasing away darkness, announcing joy, creating a sonic blessing over the winter night. Even Santa's sleigh, in the modern imagination, has bells jingling, announcing his arrival, their cheerful sound carrying across the snow. The bells say, "Something special is happening. Pay attention, be present, magic is near." Let those imagined bells ring softly in your mind, calling you deeper into rest. Santa Claus, Father Christmas, St. Nicholas, Kris Kringle. We know these names, but they're relatively recent versions of something older. The idea of a gift bringer, a figure who comes in winter, who rewards and judges. Different cultures had different versions. In Italy, there's La Befana, an old woman, a witch, who flies on a broomstick on Epiphany Eve. January 5th, the legend says, the three wise men stopped at her house, asked for directions to Bethlehem. She gave them food and shelter. They invited her to come with them, to see the Christ child. But she was too busy. She had housework, cleaning. She said maybe later. Later, she regretted her choice. She gathered gifts, set out to find the baby, but she never found him. Now, every year, she searches, flying from house to house on Epiphany, leaving gifts for children, hoping one might be the Christ child. Good children get candy, bad children get coal or onions. In Russia and Eastern Europe, there's Ded Moroz, Grandfather Frost, accompanied by Snegorochka, the snow maiden, his granddaughter. Ded Moroz wears a long blue robe, carries a staff. He's not jolly like Santa. He's stern, powerful, winter personified. He brings gifts on New Year's Eve, not Christmas, a Soviet tradition that replaced the religious holiday but kept the magic. In Spain and Latin America, the three kings bring gifts on Epiphany. Gaspar, Melchior, Balthazar. Children leave their shoes out, filled with straw, for the king's camels to eat in the morning. The straw is gone, replaced with gifts. In Iceland, we mentioned the Yule lads, 13 of them, each visiting on successive nights, each leaving small gifts or potatoes. Every culture created its own gift bringer, shaped by local folklore, local needs, local imagination. But they all serve the same purpose: to bring light to dark times, to reward goodness, to maintain order, to make children and adults feel that someone is watching, someone cares, someone comes bearing gifts in winter. The gift bringer is a wish, a hope, that we're not forgotten, that generosity exists, that winter will pass and leave us with something good. And so, we've travelled through the myths of Christmas, from Turkey to Germany, from ancient solstices to medieval legends, from dark forests to starlit skies. We've met saints and demons, birds and trees, hunters and kings, each one adding a thread to the tapestry we call Christmas. These stories, they're old, older than any of us, older than our grandparents' grandparents, passed down through generations, changed, adapted, but never quite forgotten. They remind us that Christmas is layers. Modern traditions built on medieval customs built on pagan festivals built on even older human needs. The need for light in darkness, for community in isolation, for hope when hope seems lost, for magic in an often harsh world. Whether you celebrate Christmas or not, whether you believe these stories or not, they're part of our shared human heritage, part of how we make meaning from the turning of seasons. As you drift towards sleep now, Let these ancient voices fade. Let the images dissolve. The bishops and birds, the trees and stars, the bells and fire. Let them become dreams, soft, formless, gentle. You don't need to remember them. They'll be there, in the traditions we practice without thinking, in the decorations we hang without knowing why, in the feeling of winter magic that still, somehow, touches us. The myths will endure, as they always have, changing, growing, adapting, but never disappearing. Rest now. Let centuries of stories cradle you. You're part of this ancient chain, connected to everyone who ever looked to December darkness and chose to light a candle. Hang a wreath, tell a story, give a gift. May your sleep be peaceful, may your dreams be kind, and may the old magic, the myth beneath the myth, watch over you tonight. Good night.